this, guys. This dot http dot get, what kind of data we are getting, what is your backend REST API URL, and what is the response that you are going to get, and what you want to do with that response. This is a subscribe. If the response is successful, then I will write one function. If the response is failure, then I will write some other function here. So this is the syntax. http dot get of data type, what kind of data that you are going to get, to which URL you want to send a request, what response you are getting from the REST API, and what you want to do with that response. This is a GET request that you are going to send with the Ajax. Okay. Similarly, if you want to send a post request, http.post URL, what data you want to send in the request, what response you are expecting, and what you want to do with the response. Subscribe method is used to deal with the response. Right. If the response is successful, then execute the success callback function. If the response is failure, then execute the error callback function. Right. This dot post of URL comma data comma response type dot subscribe. Same thing, you can send a put request and you can send a delete request. Success callback function. Success callback. If the response is successful, then what you want to do with that? If the response is failure, then what you want to do with that? So like this, you can use the Ajax engine. By using that Ajax engine, we can send the HTTP request to the server. We can send some data to the server. We can receive some data from the server, and we can subscribe to that response. Here I am writing a subscribe with two callback functions. One is a success callback function. Another one is error callback function. If the response is successful, then execute this function. If the response is error, then execute this function. Success callback function, error callback function. Success callback function and error callback function. So for get request, this is the syntax. For post request, this is the syntax. For put request, this is the syntax. For delete request, this is the syntax. And this is how we are going to define a callback function. This is my success callback function, and this is my error callback function. Success callback function and error callback function. Are you clear with this point? Are you clear with this point? Come on, guys. Can you tell me, are you clear with this point? Ajax. Yeah, please refer this once. What is this Ajax? Ajax stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. It is used to send the request to the backend APIs without reloading the web pages. By using Ajax, Ajax will be used in the front end only, guys. Ajax will be used in the front end. By using this Ajax, we will send the request to the backend APIs without reloading our web pages. If you want to integrate your backend functionality with the front end functionality, then Ajax is required. Where is this Ajax available? This Ajax is available inside Angular Common HTTP package. Angular Common HTTP package. If you want to use the Ajax calls in our Angular application, then we need to import Angular Common HTTP packages. Angular Common HTTP packages we need to import. Now, by using this Ajax, we can make the request faster, and it is going to reduce the burden on the browser and server, and we are going to get the better user experience. Okay. What type of request we are going to send by using Ajax? Get request, post request, put request, and delete request we are going to send to the server. Now, syntax also we have given how to send a get request to the server, how to send a post request to the server, how to send a put request to the server, that we have given here. All right. Success callback function. When the response is, whenever, suppose for example, when I have select this drop down, a request is going to server. If server is not able to process the request, there can be some exception in the server, right? There is a chance of getting some exception in the server. So when the exception occurs in the server, then what you want to do? That is callback. Whenever error occur, then execute this function. I will configure one function here which will be executed whenever error occur. If the response is success, then call this function. Here I will write the success callback function. Here I will write the error callback function. Right. Now here I have given one example how we are going to integrate our backend REST API with the front-end Angular application. Backend REST API with the front-end application. How we are going to deal with that I have given here. I have given that here. Okay. Can we try this now? Can we make one simple example with a Spring Boot, REST API and Angular frontend? Can we make one simple example? Come on, file. Yeah, let me go to our workspace, switch workspace, 19 JRTP workspace. I want to develop one simple REST API by using Spring Boot. I want to develop one simple REST API by using Spring Boot, and I want to access that by using Angular application. So like this, I'm going to do this. Today, I want to develop this application now. I will develop a backend API and I will develop a front-end application. So how backend application can communicate, how front-end application can communicate with the backend application? Who is the mediator between the front-end and the backend applications, guys? Can you tell me who is acting as a mediator between? Who is acting as a mediator between front-end application and backend application? Who is acting as a mediator between front-end application and the back-end application? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me who is going to act as a mediator between our front-end application and the back-end application? Ajax. So how to use the Ajax? In which package that Ajax is available? In which package that Ajax is available? Come on. In which package the Ajax is available? Common HTTP package. This is available in the common HTTP package. Okay. Now I'm going to create one Angular application and Spring Boot REST API. Observe carefully. Observe carefully. Now I'm going to create one boot application. Spring Boot application. It is a simple REST API which will give you a welcome message. A simple REST API which will give you a welcome message. And I will create one front-end application. I will create one front-end application which will access that back-end REST API. Which will access the back-end REST API. Perfect. Now, Angular application will take time to create. So let's create that application now. Spring Boot integration app. ng new ESB app UI. Spring Boot application UI. SB Spring Boot app UI. Spring Boot UI application. Let me create anything. Spring Boot UI application I'm creating. Spring Boot UI application I'm creating. In this application, I will use HTTP package to make Ajax request to the server to get the response. Spring Boot will be running in the backend and the front end is the Angular. From the Angular application, I will access my Spring Boot application by using Ajax. By using Ajax. So Ajax nothing but asynchronous JavaScript and XML. It is used to send a request to the server without reloading the page. Ajax is very faster. It will give you a better user experience. This Ajax services you can access by using HTTP package available in the Angular. Okay. Let's come down. Wait, it's still taking time to create the project. Angular project I'm trying to create. Angular project I'm trying to create.
Hi, Bye.
Yeah, routing. I don't need the routing here. And I want to go with the CSS. That's fine. Okay, we are done. The project will be created, guys. Yeah. Come back here. I want to create a project. I want to create a project. Okay. Now, let me create one REST API, new project. Routing, no, I'm not using the routing. File new, other. I'm going to create one Spring Starter project, guys. Simple REST API I am going to create. A simple REST API I am going to create. Let's make it as 12 SB REST API. It will give you just a welcome message. It will give you just one welcome message, Spring Boot REST API. Okay, click on next. Here I am going to use Java version 8. Click on next. Boot version. Dependencies I have to select. I'm going to select a dependency as web dependency. Web dependency because I want to develop a web application. I'm selecting web dependency. Click on next and click on finish. Click on next and click on finish. Yeah. One Spring Boot project is getting created. Simple. A REST controller I will create. When you send a request to the REST controller, it will give the response. When you send a request to the REST controller, it will give you one welcome message response. Yeah. Project is getting created. Here, Angular application. Here Angular application is also getting created. Here backend application is also created. Spring Boot is creating, Angular is creating. Still I'm waiting for the project to create. It's taking time. Two framework for one application now. What two frameworks I'm using, Jitendra? What two frameworks I'm using, Jitendra? I'm creating a Spring Boot application for backend and Angular for the front end. What two frameworks I'm using? STS for the backend development. STS I'm using for the backend development and VS Code I'm using for the front end development. You understand? Okay, let's come here. I came to my Spring Boot application. Let's create one REST controller in our Spring Boot, which is a backend project. The Spring Boot REST controller I'm creating, which is my backend project. Here I'm creating a REST controller with a name called Welcome REST controller. Welcome REST controller I'm creating in my boot application. Welcome REST controller I'm creating in my boot application. To represent our class as a REST controller, we will use one annotation called @REST controller. To represent this class as a REST controller, we will use one annotation called @REST controller. To represent this class as a REST controller, I'm using one annotation called @REST controller. Inside this REST controller, I will write one method and I will bind that method to HTTP GET request. I'm writing one method, public string welcome message. Public string welcome message. Here I'm going to simply return welcome to Ashok IT. I'm simply returning welcome to Ashok IT. For this, I'm using one annotation called @get mapping, and for that I am giving /welcome. /welcome. Are you guys able to understand this? Fine. I have created a simple REST controller. Now, guys, here, whenever you run this application, embedded server will be available, which is going to run this project on the embedded Tomcat with the port number 8080. But in my system, already Oracle database running with the 8080 port, so I cannot use the 8080 port. I need to go for a different port. For that, I am using server.port is equal to 9090. I'm going for what? Server.port with 9090. Perfect. Right click, run as boot app. Now, let's run our boot application. Our boot application running on the port number 9090. Let's access this application now. Localhost : 9090/welcome. Localhost : 9090/welcome. Are you able to access this REST API? Are we able to access this REST API? Yes, we are able to access this REST API. Okay. Now, what is the first step I have done? Open STS IDE, create a Spring Boot application, with web starter. Open STS IDE, create Spring Boot application with web starter. Create a REST controller using @REST controller annotation. Write the method in the REST controller. And bind it to HTTP request. Configure embedded server port in application.properties file. Configure embedded server port in the application.properties file if required. If you don't have a Oracle database, then no need to configure. If you don't have a Oracle database, then you no need to configure. Configure embedded server port number in the application.properties file if required. Okay. Then run the boot application. This is part 1. And this is the part 1 of our development. I opened my STS IDE. I created Spring Boot application with web starter, and I created a REST controller in my project. This is backend development. Backend REST API development. Right, guys? So, are you clear with these steps as of now? Are you clear with these steps as of now? I have created my backend application like this. This is a simple REST controller I have taken. Open STS IDE, create the Spring Boot application with the web starter, create the REST controller using REST controller annotation, write the method in the REST controller and bind it to HTTP request, configure embedded server port in the properties file, then run the boot application. Once I run the boot application and I am able to access my boot application from the browser. With this, can I say my backend REST API is ready? With this, can I say my backend REST API is ready, which is developed by using Spring Boot? Can I say my backend REST API is ready, which is developed by using Spring Boot? Guys, come on. No one is responding. No one is responding. My backend REST API development completed by using Spring Boot. Now, what is the next step? What is the next step? Front end. Front end development. CD space SBUI app. Now, I have created one project, SBUI application. This is the Angular application. Now, what we need to do in the Angular application? What we need to do in the Angular application, guys? We need to access the backend REST API by using HTTP client module. We need to access this by using HTTP client module. Okay, what are the steps here? Create the Angular application, that is completed. Import HTTP client module in the Angular application, that is the second step. Let's go to our app module, app.modules.ts. Here browser module is available. And I'm going to import HTTP client module. We need to import the HTTP client module. HTTP client module we need to import. HTTP client module available in which one? HTTP client is available in which package, guys? HTTP client available in which package? HTTP client module is available in which package? It is available in the Angular Common HTTP package. It is available in the Angular Common HTTP package. HTTP client module. That is imported. Then after, we have to inject HTTP client into our app component.ts. We have to inject. So first, in order to display the response, I am declaring one variable, message:string. Message:string is equal to empty. Currently, I have declared a message variable, string empty. Then I am writing one constructor here, which is used to inject HTTP client. I am injecting HTTP client into our application, app component, dependency injection. HTTP client I have injected with a variable called HTTP. How we injected the service class into the component, now I am injecting HTTP client into the component. Why we are using HTTP client into the component? Now, I'm going to create one button in the Angular UI. When I click that button, it should send a Ajax GET request to the server. To send the Ajax request to the server, we need a HTTP client. That's why I'm injecting HTTP into my app component. Then after, I'm writing one method, GET request method. I'm writing one method, GET request method. This dot HTTP dot get, we need to pass the URL of the REST API. Response type we are going to get as a text response. This dot get of URL, response type is a text response. Subscribe method, I'm going to specify this dot on Ajax success, this dot on Ajax error. On Ajax success, whatever the response I am getting, I will store into this variable. Whatever the response I am getting, I will store into this variable. On Ajax success, store the value, whatever the response we are getting, store that response into message variable. Store the response into message variable. On Ajax error, then just give the alert message, whatever the error we are getting, just to show that error here. Just to show that error here. Response. On Ajax success, I want to execute this. On Ajax error, I want to execute this. Guys, look at this syntax. Look at that syntax. Come on. Get request I want to make to our REST API. Get request I want to make to that REST API. HTTP client. We are injecting for that. Instead of that, you can simply write a method like this also. Get response. You can simply write a response like this also. Get response. Instead of doing all this nonsense, you can simply write a code like this also. Observable, just import this observable. HTTP client is there now. Just HTTP. This dot return. I will say that this dot message is equal to this dot HTTP dot get observable get data. I can simply write a method called get data. Observable of any, this dot message, let me make it as string, observable of string, this dot message is equal to observable is not assigned to any variable called string, observable of string I'm giving, observable of any, that is fine. This dot message, this dot HTTP dot get of string, this dot HTTP dot get of string. This is my REST API URL. What is our REST API URL? I'm going to give this URL. This is the URL that I want to access. This is my backend REST API URL. When you access that backend REST API URL, it is going to give you some response. That response I'm storing into message variable. The response I'm storing into this message variable. Look at this component, constructor injection and get data method is available. Constructor injection and get data method is available. Constructor injection and get data method is also available. In order to use the observable already imported from RxJS, that's fine. This dot get data dot subscribe to data, this dot message is equal to data. All right. Fine guys, now see here, I'm writing a get data method, invoke backend API. This is my method, invoke backend API. So here I'm writing get data method. So invoke backend API, for that I'm using a observable of any. So HTTP dot get of this URL. This is my backend REST API URL. And in the Angular UI, I'm going to create one button, guys. When I click on that button, I want to access the REST API from the backend. Now, take this, just write one button here. Just write one button. Input type is equal to button. Get data on get data clicker. So here I'm going to write one method called, one function called get data function. Get data function. This function should be called when that button is clicked. Now let's run this application. ng serve. ng serve command that I am using. ng serve command I am using to run this application. I will show you the front end. In the front end, we are going to have one button. When you click on that button, it is going to call this function. This function is going to call another function called invoke backend API. Backend API is making a HTTP GET request to the server and it is returning some data. Whatever the data that we are getting, we are storing that into our message variable. Our message variable is printing with the interpolation. Our message variable is printing with the interpolation. That's it. Here two functions are there. Still application is getting started. Application started. Go and access that. Localhost : 4200. Guys, are you able to see the button? Are you able to see the button? Get data. So what is there for this get data button? What is this get data button? What is this get data button? When I click on this button, what should happen? Can you see the UI? Can you see the UI? Input type is equal to button, value is equal to get data, click is equal to get data. So do you have on click function for this button? Do you have on click function for this button? Yes or no? Where is that function available? Where is that function available for this button? The button is available in the template. For the button, there is a click event. Whenever you click on that button, get data will be called in the component. What is there in the get data? Get data is calling one more function, invoke backend API dot subscribe. What is this invoke backend API is doing? Invoke backend API is making HTTP GET request. Here I am writing observable of any. That means any response can come from the REST API. Any response can come from the REST API. If you want, you can make it as a string also. That means I'm going to get text data from the REST API. I'm going to get the text data from the REST API. Observable. It is going to observe when the response is coming from the REST API. When the response is going to come from the REST API. It is an observable concept. This .http. This .http means HTTP already injected into this class. HTTP client from Angular common HTTP package. HTTP client is injected. HTTP.get. I want to send a GET request which will give the string response. This is the REST API URL. It is going to return the response given by the REST API. Then I am subscribing to that response. I am going to store that response into message variable. Whatever the response I am getting from the REST API, that response I am storing into message variable. This dot message. Message is a current component variable. This dot message is equal to data. Data is the thing which we are getting from the REST API. Now refresh. Guys, observe carefully. I'm going to open developer tools also. If any problem occurs in the integration, then you can see that in the console. Now, can you see my console? Is there anything available in the console? In the browser console? Is there anything available in the browser console now? There is nothing available in the browser console. Okay. There is nothing available in the browser console. Click on get data. Are we getting the response? Or we are not getting the response? Are we getting the response from the REST API? Or we are not getting the response from the REST API? Integration is successful or integration is failure? Integration is successful or our integration is failure? Is our Angular application able to access the backend REST API? Is the Angular application able to access the backend REST API? Integration is failed. There is a reason. Now, access to XML HTTP request at this backend REST API URL from origin Angular URL has been blocked by course policy. What is this? Course policy has blocked our request. What is this? Cross origin resource sharing. Course policy has blocked our request. Now, let me fix this issue and we'll talk about it. Course policy has blocked our request. Course policy has blocked our request. Okay, now how I'm going to fix this issue? How I'm going to fix this issue? Cross origin. Cross origin. I'm writing an annotation called cross origin. Let me stop my backend application. Let me run the backend application again. Run as boot app. I've stopped my application because I have added an annotation called cross origin. Cross origin. Yes. Now my application restarted. Check the backend API. Backend API is running. Go to the front-end application. Click on get data. Click on get data. What's happening here? HTTP failure during the parsing 9090 welcome. HTTP response okay. Status 200. Status text is okay. Class HTTP response prototype object. HTTP response headers status 200. Status text is okay. Welcome, okay, false, error, unexpected token W in the JSON at position 0, text welcome to Ashok IT. Oh, it is expecting a JSON text where we mentioned that we are expecting a JSON text. Let me make it as any then, observable of any, observable of any. Observable of any. If not, then we will set the response type that we are expecting. Response type we are expecting as a text. Now get data, still same error. Unexpected token W in the JSON. That means what is happening, guys? It is expecting the response as a JSON. It is expecting the response as a JSON. How can I get the text data? How can I get the text data now? What it is thinking, whatever the REST API is giving, it is trying to consider that as a JSON data. Whatever the REST API is giving, it is considering that as a JSON data. That's why it is not able to parse that JSON data. It is not able to parse that JSON data. Then how can we tell that? How can we tell that we are getting response type as a text? How can we tell that we are getting the response type as a text? Comma. Response type is a text. Let me try this. I want to set this response type. What type of response we are getting? Response type. type, unexpected type response type, which is declared here on type headers. One second. We need to inform to the Ajax that we are getting the text response. Headers. http.get any localhost colon 9090/welcome. We are getting a text data. It is considering that we are getting the data as a JSON. It is considering that we are getting the data in the JSON format. We need to inform that we are getting a text data. From the REST API, we are getting text data. /welcome, comma, response type as text. http.get any of this URL, comma, response type as a text that I'm trying to access. Guys, can you see, is there any other thing that mistake that we are doing? Response type is a text. Compiled successfully. Localhost 9090/welcome, get of any. This dot message is equal to data. JSON at a position 0, text welcome to Ashok IT. The text is coming, it is considering that as a JSON data. Let me do one thing. Value is equal to welcome and the produces is equal to text / plain. I'm going to produce plain text data. I'm setting the header produces. Right click, run as boot app. Run as boot app. Application started. Now refresh. Get data still. Let me copy this error. Go to browser. Unexpected token. Position 0. Yeah. This dot get response to JSON response that they are mapping. Fine. Unexpected token. If it is a plain text, then you can just do response.text to get the raw string. JSON.response.json. It is because a simple string is returned in the response. The text is not a valid JSON. So when you try to do response.json, it calls JSON parse try to do it with the string that provided raw data. That is the response they are giving. Let's try one more thing. JSON dot string 5. Response.json. You might, instead of parsing the JSON yourself with JSON parse like this. Response is equal to response.text. Okay. Data, this dot message is equal to response of data dot text method they are telling. Fine. Now go to this app, click on get data. Still same problem. Unexpected token W in the JSON at position 0 text. This dot message is equal to data dot text. Let me do one thing. Console.log of data.text. Let's see what it is printing in the console. Get data. Clear this. Response type as text. Let me configure the headers. That response type as a text. So the only issue, it is considering that the data is a JSON, but we are getting a text data. Headers. This is also not working. Just let me do the console print. No. JSON.string 5. Let's try one more thing, that is console.log of data. that is JSON dot JSON dot string file of data. Just converting the data to string value. Console.log of JSON of string file. Reload this page. Click on get data. No, same syntax error. Headers, HTTP headers, status text. No guys, this is also not working. Just in the console, I'm trying to log this, but this dot message is equal to JSON dot string file of data. Clear. Refresh, get data. No, same error we are getting. Unexpected token to parse this response. HTTP header. HTTP header in Angular HTTP get request. Let me see how can we set this header. Get. Let me try this. HTTP headers object I'm creating. Content type I'm giving text/plain. Then I want to send that headers in the request. Base URL. Comma headers. Last try. Guys, I think I need to check this. Why this is not able to parse this text data. I'm setting the headers, but still it is failing. Content type is text/plain. Let's go for accept. No. config response constants inside the subscribe.
జ్యోతికి ఇప్పుడు దాకా నేను తీసేది అందులో ఆగులేదు
కవర్లో అయితే ఉండేసుకుని
అదే అర్థంలో చూసి వేసుకుంటే వేసుకుంటాను మరి లోనికి ఎప్పుడు
ఇది కూడా కోసేనా వచ్చి ఇక్కడ
ఎవరైనా చూసారా
Guess what we are missing, that response type colon text. Now let's try this time. Wow, finally we got it. Yeah, now when I click on get data button, I'm able to get the message as welcome to Ashokite. I'm able to get the message as welcome to Ashokite. So why this is coming in the double quotes? Welcome to Ashokite. This is the response I'm sending. Text / plain. Are we keeping that in the double quotes? The template? No. Message. Okay. What are the messages that we are getting? When I click on this button, we are getting the data from REST API and we are able to display. दिमाग खराब कर दिया था. This dot message JSON dot string 5. Maybe this could be the issue. Let's take it as just data. Click on this. Yeah, fine. We are getting welcome to Ashokite. So what we missed it, guys? What is the problem that we faced? What is the problem that we have faced? Two problems we have faced. First problem is the course problem. So to resolve that course problem, I have added a cross origin annotation. I will talk about what is that course problem in the tomorrow session. Just to get rid of that problem, I have used one annotation called @ cross origin.